Good evening, everyone. And what a night to talk about summer inspiration. I think we have about 6 degrees and rain. It feels like winter, and it is a perfect time to plan for spring and summer activities. My name is Inger Tone Ødegaard. I'm here in studio with my colleague Lars Idar Våge behind the cameras. And I have two wonderful ladies. They know a lot about traveling in Norway. You will soon meet Britt Dalland from Fjord, Norway, and Wenche Hansen from Guidecompaniet. And they have been working with tourism for a long time. And I will give the floor to them pretty soon. I think it is quite important as a newcomer in Norway. I know some of you from the participant list, and I know that you are experienced and have been many places already, but I really hope we are able to share a lot of inspiration for what you can do in the afternoons, in the weekends, and not at least about the summer break. Hopefully some surprises. You're welcome to ask questions in the chat room, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible. After this seminar, we will forward a link to the presentations and some really useful websites where you can look for more details about transportation and practicalities, opening hours, etc., about different destinations that Wenche and Britt is going to talk about. Are you guys ready to plan for summer? I wish we could see you here in the studio, but that's not the case. So Britt, if you are with us from Bergen, I am happy to give the word to you.
So thanks a lot. And first of all, thank you to the Stavanger Chamber of Commerce, who has invited me to talk about my favorite subject, which is traveling and summer holidays in Norway. I will share a small presentation with you so you can follow a little bit of pictures, and I hope everything will work okay with the, let me know if it's not sharing the main picture. Let me see. So, summers I work for the Regional Tourist Board in the west coast of Norway, Fjord, Norway. So you have to bear with me a little bit. I'm going to talk about all of Norway, but I have to admit that probably it's going to be a bit more about the west coast than the rest. But I'm going to do a short introduction about the rest of Norway, and then I'll focus a bit extra on the Fjord Norway region.
Britt,
yeah?
we can't see your presentation.
You can't do that, exactly.
You can try to share once more.
Yeah, I'll see that. You can't see it at all, no? Then I'll, just a second, I'll see if I can share it once more. Oopsie. Can you see it now?
Is it okay? No.
No, not yet. Oh, it worked when we tested it earlier, but it's very often like that, isn't it? Let me see. I'll see if I can share it one more time. And then we see, let me see, there it is. Let's try now.
Here we go.
Share now?
Thank you.
Okay, good. It always has to be a few small technicalities. Okay, I'll start with an overview over Norway. And Oslo, the capital of Norway, probably a few of you know quite well, is a capital that's up and coming in Europe, and very much new architecture is coming. The barcode, the Monk Museum, the new one, the opera that we had for a few years. It's really an exciting city to go to and travel to, and also with the castle and the king's family. And then I have to mention, it's not far away from Stavanger, it's Sørlandet. It's sort of kind of like the perfect summer holiday destination for most of us Norwegians. Most of us on the west coast, I'm looking out at awful weather now, raining. And as most people in the summer holiday, very often we travel to try to get some sun, and the Sørlandet is for us Norwegian very often the sun coast. Very charming, and lovely small towns along the coast there. And then Northern Norway. Northern Norway has perfect connection now from Stavanger with Widerøe, traveling directly north to Northern Norway. And it is a fantastic landscape up there, especially in the summer when you have the midnight sun. You have the Lofoten Islands, you have fantastic wildlife with the whale safaris, and a landscape that is so different to both what we experience here on the west coast in Norway and also the rest of Europe. So that's also kind of like definitely worth a visit also in the summertime. And then we go between northern Norway and Fjord Norway and the west coast is Trøndelag. And I wanted to mention Trøndelag because that's actually quite an exciting destination to travel to too, and it's not that far away. And it's got fascinating cultural and historical sites like the Nidaros Cathedral in Trondheim, and Trondheim is also a very charming and exciting town to travel to. And the Nidaros Cathedral is the northernmost medieval cathedral in the world. And you also have a Stiklestad. We like the Viking history, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about Fjord Norway. But you also have Stiklestad, where you can step a little bit back in the time of the Viking kings. And then you also have another small gem up there, is this golden route at Inderøy, where you can travel around and taste local food by farmers, galleries, art museums, and historic memorials. And Trøndelag is also coming up of one of those places where you really have fantastic local food, a little bit in competition with Stavanger maybe, but you have Michelin star restaurants there now, and they have a lot of focus on local food in that region. And also, like we have here with us, nature adventures is also a big thing in this area. You have pretty much on the border between the western counties and Trøndelag is the Dovrefjell National Park. And here you can go on this musk ox safari, which is quite exciting. Or you can go on a magical tour with horse and sleigh in the UNESCO town of Røros. Røros is also a fantastic gem, a small miners town in the mountains there. Or you can go to the Namdalen coast by kayak, which is also quite an interesting place to go. But then I was honest, I'm going back a little bit to Fjord Norway, and I'm having a good reason for this, I think, because we are in an ending of a pandemic. And we are kind of like here in the Fjord region. I think for a lot of international tourists, they think about Norway, it's maybe Northern Lights and the Midnight Sun, North Cape, and then it's the fjords. And normally on the summer here in Norway, and especially in the fjords, you will have a lot of international tourists. And I think it was like this last summer. It was in a way we had all of the top attraction to ourselves. And I think at least you come well into July, we will still have a summer where we will have a lot of these top attractions to ourselves. There will be fewer international tourists, and it's really kind of like, I would say this is the year to come and visit the fjords. So that's a bit of my recommendation. And it is a real kind of like a playground for those who are interested in nature, culture and adventures. And what I'm going to do is try to take you through a grand round trip in Fjord Norway. On our website, and we'll send you the links afterwards, we have quite a few tour suggestions because we know we have a region that's not so easy to travel around in. Nothing is straightforward. It's bends and turns and ferries, and it's hard to plan a trip here. So we made a lot of tour suggestions, and this tour takes you pretty much through all the highlights of the region, and it also follows the national scenic routes I'm going to talk a little bit about. So I'm going to just go through a little bit what you would experience on a trip with traveling through the Fjord region in what looks like almost like a number 8 on the map. And one of the things that is, you would travel along the national scenic routes. I'm not sure if you know those, but it's a perfect combination between nature and architecture. And it's kind of like been a huge project by the government here in Norway that they've chosen 18 of these routes to be national scenic routes. And I always say it's a real gift to us in the tourism industry, and it's a real gift for travelers. Because of these 18 carefully selected roads, 10 of them are in the Fjord region. And what they've done is actually they've used a lot of architecture to create sit-down areas, public toilets. We have some of the fanciest public toilets in the world in this country because they've invested so much in this architecture. And it's also a lot of architecture that makes, in a way, the nature a bit more accessible for people, because it's these fantastic viewpoints just next to the road. So you don't have to do the climb and this long walks to actually get to these fantastic viewpoints. Or it could be a step going up to a waterfall that you get quite close to the water, or small steps down to the beach. So it's very much a project that makes the nature so much more accessible. And if you follow this route that we suggested, you will actually touch point 10 of these fantastic routes in our region. And they used artwork to reinforce the character of these routes and of the landscape. And it's also kind of like they've used some famous architects, and they've also used a lot of upcoming and young architects that's actually been giving the assignments to do these fantastic viewpoints. And one of them is, the first one is to the left where you have the Fjord, and that is the Stegastein viewpoint. And that is made by Todd Saunders. He's actually originally Canadian, come from Newfoundland, and he's actually quite world famous actually. And he made this Stegastein viewpoint. He lives in Norway now, he lives in Bergen actually, but it's a fantastic wooden structure that goes overlooking that fjord. And you have the glass window at the end, so if you look down there, you pretty much see the drop straight in down to the fjord. And then they have Peter Somter, he's a Swiss architect, and he did the Almannajuvet. That's not far away from Stavanger, that's up in Ryfylke by the old zinc mines. And that's also architecture, that's the toilets here is inspired by the history of the miners up in the zinc mines. And then you have Gilardi and Hansen, who did the Eldhusøya, that is up in by the Atlantic Road. I think the Atlantic Road was voted by The Guardian to be one of the most beautiful drives in the world, and it's fantastic as it zigzags along the islands. And you have a small walk path around the island that looks towards one of these most famous bridges. So traveling through this route, you will actually touch in on all of these fantastic architectural gems and these viewpoints. And then, of course, our main kind of like focus in our region is the fjords, and you will experience so many of the nicest fjords along the route. You will go first, you have the Lysefjord. I'm sure quite a few of them you have explored that already, because Stavanger is at the gateway and the perfect starting point, and home to the Pulpit Rock, and easy accessible from Stavanger. And that's the starting point of the route when you start at Stavanger. And it's a fantastic fjord and so dramatic and quite world famous. And then just north of you is the Hardanger Fjord. It's the orchard of the region. And even if you don't go on the long tour straight away, think about having a weekend going up there in May, because it's so fantastic when you have the fruit blossoming in the fjords there. And like the few of the last weekends in May would be the perfect time, and you can go up on a day trip or a weekend. And there's a lot of fruit and cider production. It's a bit fascinating that we have that so far north. You have even plums, pears, you can have even apricots there. And they have so many of these young farmers coming back now and running the cider production. And we're trying even to get it registered as you have champagne in France. Further north to the Sognefjord, the longest fjord and the king of the fjords. We like to say it's the longest fjord in the world, probably it isn't, but it's a fascinating fjord where you have all these small villages along the fjord. It's extremely charming. Either you have Balestrand or Vik, each with their own little history, and small cafes and places where you can actually get good food and just sit down and relax. So it's a very nice, it's a long fjord and has a lot to offer. And it's also has home to the Nærøyfjord, one of the fjord arms that's on the UNESCO World Heritage List, where you see on the picture here. And it's also a fjord that has fantastic, and that's actually all the fjords we have, is fantastic hiking opportunities with this good fjord view. A bit further north, when we travel from Sognefjord, we travel up to Nordfjord. We say it's a fjord from the coast to the glacier. You have here the Loen Skylift. I think Loen Skylift was one of the big hits last summer for most Norwegians traveling in Norway, and it's definitely worth actually a visit. You have a skylift going up straight from the fjord to the mountain top, giving fantastic views all over the fjord and also towards the Loen water. Great area for hiking, glacier walks, and also for just taking in the fjord landscape. And then Geiranger Fjord, probably our most famous fjord, is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And as I said, this year, we love it when the kind of like cruise ships come here, but this year was probably one of the few years with very few cruise ships in this fjord, and this is one of the most visited ones. Fantastic waterfalls here, and the small village of Geiranger is extremely charming. You have small mountain farms just above the fjord there, where you can have guided hikes up there. So it's actually also a true gem to visit. And then maybe one of those that you knew less about is the Fjord, a true hidden gem. And it's a dramatic mountain and peak area there, a bit different from the other fjords in the region, much more dramatic, maybe much more of a kind of like alpine mountain landscape, but also very, very charming. And you can go all the way into the bottom of the shore there, where you have Union Hotel Øye, one of these old historic hotels where they even have a ghost. And they say it is actually true, there is a ghost at the hotel. Very charming history that they would tell you in the evening when you stay the night there. So there's actually a true combination of fjords here, and making this grand tour, you will actually touch on all of these fjords. And you have also in between small hidden gems too. And then also on a tour like this, you would travel along the coast. And very often we forget about the coast because we talk a lot about the fjords, but we forget that actually the fjords begins by the coast. And if you're really looking for those small hidden gems, you find them along the coast. The coast goes from Stavanger all the way up to Kristiansund, the north of that. But there's so many small coasty villages, old fishing villages, lighthouses where you can actually have an overnight stay at the lighthouse, and all the opportunities for kayaking and outdoor adventures. Especially, I think, traveling as a family, doing a kayak, you can do a small course and just a guided tour. It's such a fantastic experience of actually getting to know the nature a little bit better. And it's also a really nice bonding experience, I would say. And also you have some of these small villages, like you have one up on the fjord coast, Knutholmen, and the Kalvåg village, where the whole village has been turned into a hotel pretty much. And old restored houses you can stay in and have an overnight. And another thing you will experience is adventures in the fjords. Loads of adventures. These are pictures actually from the Via Ferrata in Loen, and we saw actually a lot of the Norwegian traveling last year. They don't want to have a guided hike because we hike on our own, but all the adventures that had a little bit of action. And when you're here in Norway, I think definitely try to get on a glacier walk. First of all, it's a fantastic Instagram shot. Everybody thinks you've been on an expedition, but children down to 8 years can do it. And you go with guides that are really well trained, and it's a very safe experience. But walking along this old ice that you think about actually is almost backdating from the ice ages, the ice that actually made this fantastic fjord landscape, is a really lovely experience. And also, as I said, kayaking on the fjords, it's just such a different experience to just looking at the fjord from above, or all the hiking opportunities that we have. And also more action is like those Via Ferratas. You should not be faint-hearted or scared of heights. I would never do it. I confess, I would never go up on a Via Ferrata, but it's a fantastic experience for those who dare. And it's also a really nice family experience where you have safe and good guides that take you along, or a rafting. Like at Voss, you have fantastic family rafting that is suited to the whole family. And another little new trend, saunas, is really a Finnish tradition, but now at the moment it pops up this little saunas in the fjords, which is a really nice experience. We can't brag about very warm waters in this water here in summer in Norway. So being able to go back and sit in the sauna and warm up between the swimming experiences is quite a good thing. And those you have it at Preikestolen base camp, but in Hardanger and in the Sognefjord now, these small saunas pop up. And then you will visit, of course, the exciting fjord cities. Let's say again, you already live in one of the best, so no doubt about that. And Wenche will talk more about what you can experience in Stavanger. So I'll flip quickly further on to the neighboring city, which is Bergen, where I live. A city of culture, a UNESCO World Heritage Site at Bryggen, which is really fascinating, and go behind the facade and look behind there and think about the exciting time back at the Hanseatic ages. Bergen was even a capital in Norway in the start of the Middle Age, so it has a lot of interesting history from the Middle Ages, and it's in the heart of the fjords. And then Ålesund, burnt down in 1905, giving us the opportunity to build it up in one style. So it's a fascinating little jewel of a city, built up in Art Nouveau architecture. Everything is in one style, and it's a hub for active adventures and a great starting point for both coastal and fjord experiences. And then you have the fjord, other small fjord cities, Haugesund, Molde, and Kristiansund, small cities along the coast that is definitely worth a visit, and you will visit along a tour like this. And then, of course, it's not just nature in our region, it's a lot of culture and it's a lot of history. And experience the Viking history when you're here. We have a proud history. We don't always talk so much about it, but we should, because it is a fascinating history we have. And you can visit the Guidecompaniet Viking village at the bottom of the Sognefjord. You have Sagastad in Nordfjordeid, just by Nordfjord. Of course, closer to home, Avaldsnes and the Norwegian History Center at Karmøy, just outside Haugesund. And of course, you have Sword in Stone and the Viking House in Stavanger, and a lot of that history already on your doorstep. But it is a fascinating history to follow and to travel along and see some of those experiences. And then another kind of thing is the a local produce in Fjord, Norway. I don't think we've had a reputation of being kind of like a country for gourmet, but I think a lot has changed over the last maybe 10, 15 years. Stavanger has been leading in actually taking steps towards actually much better local food in our region. And it's also helped with young chefs coming and wanting to use local produce, but do it in their modern and contemporary way. And as I mentioned, the cider production, you have cider now, cider farms in Ryfylke, in Hardanger, in Sognefjord, and even up in Nordfjord, making really, really good cider. I think a lot of us should change out the Prosecco or the champagne and rather use some of the sparkling cider from the local produce. And definitely traveling around here, you can go and see cider safaris now in Hardanger. There's even one that you visit several farms where you can have tasting and get to hear more about history. Oops, I jumped a little bit there. And then a little bit more about, no, it was actually that. Local produce. I think I skipped one. That doesn't matter. I wanted to say one more thing, so I do that. Say one more thing about the food and the champions of Fjord, Norway. The cider is one thing. We also have the world's best gin produced in our region, the Barreksen gin here in Bergen, and we have fantastic, I know it's the cheeses you get down in Stavanger is also fantastic. You have the Kraftkar cheese that's made up in Tingvoll. In north of Kristiansund, you have the Gouda, you have the Fanaost, that was also a championner. So it's a lot of good food that we can actually be proud of here in our region and that we should talk a bit about. And then last but not least, I see I skipped a little bit, is a little bit about good advice before you set out on a journey. Because I think most when you want to go on a holiday is packing sunglasses, sun swimsuit and some flip-flops and enjoying the sun. But that's not for a holiday in Norway, especially not on the west coast. Because we can have fantastic, lovely weather here and no doubt about that. But weather can change extremely quickly. So it's always important, I think, to really enjoy the holiday, to bring some good and warm clothes. And then always bring some rain gear, because even if it's raining, there's so many activities you can do, and you can still go on kayaking or you can be out on rafting. So just enjoy actually the tour, even if the weather is not always on your side. And summer nights here, we have long evenings, and even if it was warm in the day, it could be cold in the evenings. Have a good fleece or warm sweater, then you enjoy even those kind of like long, light summer evenings sitting outside. Good walking shoes, always important. And I always have a good word for wool underwear. It's perfect. It keeps you always well tempered and it keeps you warm regardless of the weather. So that's just a few good advice on the way from experience in traveling on the west coast. So that was a few words from me. Thank you for listening, and I had to prove that I have been to Preikestolen. Had my holiday in Stavanger.
And we have many questions because, as you said, it is so many nice places to visit, so many activities to do. And of course, our visitors today, they will be the planners, and many of them will have visitors coming in summer. And all of a sudden, even though they are brand new in town, visitors expect them to be the guides. So that's why it is really useful for them to have all the details. So could you add a little bit more information about transportation and accommodations?
Yes,
because the map you gave us with the route is excellent, because you can plan that for a week or 2 weeks, but it might be useful to add some information about the distance, your recommendations about where to sleep, where to stay, etc.
Yes. A trip like this, what we've set up, is for traveling with your own car, because that gives you more of freedom. And that's kind of like, there is a good developed public transport system in Norway, because we live here everywhere in this region. So we have good public transport, but it's not always so easy to plan. We all know the ferry routes, especially the bus routes, it's not so easy to plan a long trip like this. So traveling with your own car, I think for a summer holiday is the easiest, I have to say. Sustainable, maybe not so much, but we have electric cars here in Norway, good charging stations. So a lot of the tours we have planned is for driving with your own car. You can do public transport. You can also do organized tours with public transport, like Fjord tours, and Go Fjords offer that. But most of the trips, I think you get the most out of it with your own car, especially if you live here, you have your own car anyway. And for accommodation, there's so many opportunities. You have standard chain hotels like a Scandic, like a Tone, quite good. I think actually Norwegian hotels has good quality, and the price is not exaggerated compared to a lot of other countries. What you get always extremely good breakfast. We love our breakfast in Norway. So normal hotel chains you have a lot of. Then you have the smaller, what I think is always charming, is like the historic hotels. We have a lot of family-owned hotels, a bit more pricey, but you get a lot of back from it. Very nice place situated by the fjords, very often like Hotel Ullensvang in Hardanger, or Utne Hotel, or Kviknes at the Sognefjord, Alexandra. So a bit more pricey, but you really kind of get, that's the historic hotels. You have classic Norway, has some really nice also, similar to this historic style hotel, normally family-run businesses. And then you have, of course, camping. Camping and cabins is also kind of like a good opportunity to do. And there's a lot of cabins also around in the region. And then, of course, the latest trend here is all those kind of like fascinating accommodation, like the treetop huts, like the boulder in Lysefjord, or the Floke cabins outside Haugesund. Those are really fascinating, but I think you have to be a bit patient, because the first available slots are probably in November, December. But if you want to have really one of these special experiences, yes, that's an opportunity. But there is kind of like a lot of different accommodation all through the region. So it's a little bit after what you want to spend on it and how you want to travel.
Thank you. And we will add some extra websites about those details, etc., to make sure it make it convenient. And of course, as you said, Haugesund and Bergen, that could be, Haugesund is a day trip, Bergen could be a weekend trip, back and forth with a speedboat, with a plane, etc. A last question for now is about what you expect for summer, because we know it is, we wait for Norway to open, we wait for rest of the world to open. So that's why we plan for a vacation and activities kind of where we are, which means Norway. So do you know a little more about capacity? Because we expect that many will spend their vacation in Norway. And last year, the northern part of Norway was completely sold out. What is the situation for July and August this year?
I think July, if you have kind of like, if you want to go to some of those special places that a lot of other people want to go to, I think you need to start looking very quickly and start booking quickly, because I think like Loen in Nordfjord, where you have the Loen Skylift, they are already starting to get bookings back in now quite early. So July is always a little bit of a challenge, I would say, especially on the most popular places. In the cities like Bergen, shouldn't be a problem at all, or some of the bigger places out in the fjords, it's not a problem. But if there's really some spaces you have said, there I really want to go, you have to start thinking about booking now, because those ones get sold out quicker. And I think a lot of Norwegians will plan their July holiday at home. So yes, but also think about June. If I would recommend somebody, I say it to international travelers too, in July it's not always the best time to travel, because we have more rain in July than we have in June. And even in May, so end of May, and also when you get into August, if you have freedom to plan a little bit, I would have tried to not necessarily hit July as a small advice.
Sounds like a good advice. Very useful. And we might have more questions for you, and then we will get back to you. So Britt, she actually gave us a lot of ideas from the northern part of Norway, Trøndelag, the west coast. And right now we will take you into Rogaland, which is your home base, because it is extremely important to use these bright evenings and weekends to explore your neighborhood, because it gives a lot of energy to explore new places. And Wenche, she is the general manager of Guidecompaniet, and she is working full time, not as much as you would like to right now, but that will come back to take visitors to the best places we have to offer. So I would like to give the floor to you, Wenche.
Thank you, Inger Tone. And as she said, my name is Wenche, and I'm the manager of Guidecompaniet. And my task here today is to give you some inspiration on how you can spend your time in Rogaland, because you don't get to travel around all of Norway for the whole time and the whole summer. But there are so many interesting places where you can spend your time in the summer or the fall or the winter or the whole year around here in your own region of Rogaland. So this is a map of the county of Rogaland, and it's also very often referred to as an 1 hour region or Norway in a miniature. That means anywhere you go from Stavanger, 1 hour in any direction, you will find pretty much all of the type of landscape and nature that you will find anywhere in Norway. So you have the beautiful islands of Ryfylke, you have the fjords, you have the mighty high mountains and the deep valleys, you have the sandy beaches, you have the coastal cities, and of course the big city of Stavanger. So there is no chance that you won't be bored if you have to spend your summer in Rogaland. Oh. Okay. Then. So, this is it. Going 1 hour north of Stavanger, you will reach Haugesund. And this is a beautiful little coastal town to visit. And staying in Haugesund for the weekend, or even if you go for a day trip, you can also visit Skudeneshavn, which is a summer city, beautiful white houses. Or if you like more drama, go to Fjord and see the mighty waterfall, and visit the farms and have some tasty food for lunch in Fjord. So Haugesund is definitely a place to visit. Also, as Britt told you, they have a rich Viking history. So if you are interested in Vikings, Haugesund is the place to visit. Or going 1 hour south, you can visit Egersund and the nice town of Sogndal, the city slow Sogndalstrand. You can go hiking to Trollpikken, or you can visit any of the small white churches that you find in this area. You can stay for a weekend, of course, or you can reach the place only 1 hour from Stavanger. And in between, you find the lovely sandy beaches of Jæren. 5 Norwegian miles of sandy beaches, and on a beautiful summer day, it can be crowded, but not all days are like that. And in fact, many people in this region, they prefer rather rough weather because they can do their activities like stand-up paddle, like kiting, like surfing, instead of sunbathing. So even if the weather is not good, the beaches is actually a very good place to visit. Or 1 hour to the east, and you will find the big mountains, the high, tall mountains, the deep valleys, the mighty waterfalls, the biggest boulder field in Europe, actually. Or you can visit Børkedalstunet down to the right here, and a very nice place to stay for overnight visits or just to enjoy a nice meal. Or you can continue further up to the mountains, where Norwegians, or where especially people here in Rogaland, will go for their skiing as a skiing resort in the winter time. And that's only 1 hour east of Stavanger, sorry. And of course, Lysefjorden, which is a must if you are in Stavanger or in the Stavanger area. Going to the fjord in the full length and being a bit dramatic, if you look for excitement, you can hike the 4,444 steps up in Flørli. You can stand on the boulder at Kjærag and look 1,000 meters directly down into the fjords. Or you can drive the scary hairpin turns up from Lysebotn and up to the top of the mountain. So anything you want to do, if you are a little bit dramatic, go to Lysefjorden.
Wenche, if you just keep that picture, I can tell you if you would like to do Kjærdag, we normally do a trip every year to Kjærdag. We rent a bus, we go together, and we are planning another one in June. Last year we had to cancel because we were not allowed to take a bus, but it is a long day if you would like to go back and forth. But of course, if you have done it once, it is way easier for you to be the local ambassador for your visitors coming in later on too. So we try to make those evening and weekend events together to kind of make sure you get used to it. Yeah. And we really recommend these places because it is fun to do together as well.
It is. It's quite a hard hike, but it's absolutely doable. And I haven't done it myself, I'm sorry to say, but people who has done it say it's fantastic.
You haven't been to Kjærdag?
I haven't been to Kjærdag.
Oh my gosh, we have to invite you along for the next trip.
I'm a bit afraid of heights.
And dear friends out there, if you would like to do the steps, Flørli-trappene, 4444, let me know and we'll see if we could, if one of you are guides, we can do that hike too. Let's take the challenge. Yes. And you bring Wenche along.
Yes. But if you are not that adventurous, you can do kind of a soft visit to Lysefjorden by boat, cruising the fjord and have a look at the pulpit rock from down from the fjord. But you can also do a combination. You can do a boat tour, and the tour will take a stop in the middle of the fjords. You will be picked up by a bus, brought up to the base camp where you can start a hike up to the plateau of Preikestolen and go by bus back to Stavanger again, which is a beautiful and very, very nice tour. But you can also, of course, visit Fjord and Fjære by one of these boats, 20-minute boat ride out into the fjord, and there is the northernmost idyllic tropical island with a beautiful, beautiful garden, and I encourage all of you to visit that place, to have a guided tour of the garden, and maybe a dinner or a lunch at the island. This is something that everyone.
When it's time for blooming, right?
Yes, yeah. They do. So, in Stavanger being one of the big cities of Norway. Actually, we are the fourth biggest city of Norway. And Britt was talking about Nidarosdomen, the big cathedral of Norway. But the cathedral of Stavanger, you might not think that it's that old, but it goes back to 1125. So we are getting close to a 900 years jubilee. Also for the city of Stavanger, which was founded at the same time as the cathedral was built. So if there was no cathedral, there would be no city. So we are proud to say that we have the oldest cathedral in Norway, which has its architecture and stands as it is today, as it was when it was built back in 1125, which is quite unique. So if you go over to the cathedral, touch the stones, they are the same stones that monks brought to the church and built the church 900 years ago, which is quite unique, I think. And the city of Stavanger has many, many hidden gems to show you. And tourists coming here to Stavanger, they often say, what a cozy town. You have the cobblestone streets, you have the old part of Stavanger, you have the colorful street of Stavanger with all the cafes and nice pubs. And you have the Valberg Tower, the fire watchman tower, and of course the beautiful harbor of Stavanger. So there are so many places you can go see in Stavanger. And the thing is, the city itself is very compact, so you don't have to walk very far to get to see the city itself. And we do have a lot of very, very good museums in Stavanger. These are only a few of them, like the Children's Museum, the Aviation and War Museum, the Norwegian Petroleum Museum, and you can all you can visit them all on your own, but of course, much nicer to go with a guide to tell you the story about the museum. But there are so many unique museums like the Canning Museum going to reopen again this summer. And it's actually one of its kind in the whole world, which is also the Norwegian Petroleum Museum. It may sound a bit dull to visit a museum, but I can promise you it is not dull at all. So we also have the Viking House. And as Britt told you earlier, Viking House and Swords in Rock is an important part of our Viking history in Norway. Actually, this is the place where Norway was born nearly 900 years ago. In 872, there was a big Viking battle out in Fjord, where you can see the three swords. And in that battle, the Viking king, Harald Fairhair, he was the winning king, and he united the 29 small kingdoms of Norway. He united them under one throne, and he became the first king of the entire Norway. And these three swords are to commemorate this battle. And the story of the Battle of Hafrsfjord can be seen in VR in the Viking House. It's a unique attraction, and you should really go there on your own or as part of a guided tour.
And Wenche, we should probably mention the Three Swords also as a popular hiking area. And the sunset, since we are on the west coast, of course, the evening walk out there is amazing.
It is.
So it is important to use the neighborhood.
It is. And the walk goes, you can walk from the start in Møllebukta and all the way over to Kvernevik, which is a unique walk, I would say. So,
I'll send them a link.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yes. So anything I've been telling you so far, they are things you can do on your own, of course. You can also ask us for help if you want to organize a tour. But we do have some things planned for the summer, which we hope will be available for booking for individuals. And I'll go through a couple of these things with you. So we hopefully can arrange some tours depending on how the COVID situation will be. And one of the tours will be a harbour cruise by boat. Stavanger is situated on a peninsula. We have a lovely coastline and some islands to visit. Some of them are rather unknown even to local people, as you have to have access to your own private boat to get around there. So this is something we hope to be able to offer for booking during June and July or August at least. And also a cruise going into Lysefjord, where you can be dropped off at Flørli to hike the steps and then continue. If you don't want to hike the steps, we will continue down or all the way into Lysebotn and drive the hairpin turns up to the top of the mountain, go back, pick up the people at Flørli and go back to Stavanger. So this is also a tour we hope to be able to offer for booking in July and August. Also, we have Gladmat, which is the Happy Food Festival, the biggest food festival in Norway, some say even in Scandinavia, has been going on for more than 20 years. This year with a new date from the 30th of June till the 3rd of July. And during these days, there will be tours offered, guided walking tours to 5 restaurants. And we opened these tours for sale only a couple of days ago, and we already sold more than 200 tickets. So I would recommend that if you want to do a guided tour like this, taste all the good things that we can offer in Stavanger, you should visit our website to book. And we also have every day one tour in English. It was a great success, last year. This year, we will also expand the tours, and we will offer one tour by boat into Ryfylke, one tour by train going to Egersund, and one bus going into the islands of Ryfylke to taste all good things you can taste in these areas. So there should be able to do plenty of things in this week. We also hope to be able to offer Segway tours in Stavanger, a guided Segway tour in the city or outside the city to look at the street art, which Stavanger has become so well known for. So this is a good and it's a popular way to do a city walk even for families, because very often young people would think that a guided walk is pretty dull, but doing it by Segway, it can be quite exciting. And of course, be a tourist in your own city. Do a guided city walk, visit the fire tower, taste some of the good foods we can offer, and have a visit to the Viking house. This is a tour that has become very, very popular for people living in Stavanger, because it's a good way to experience and learn about their own city. But if you want to do something extra, if you have family over, if you have friends over, why don't you let us arrange a tour for you in a private boat, have some food on the way, do a tour that is really, really something else. Or if you want to go fishing, we can arrange that for you. We pretty much can do anything.
Wenche,
yes.
I have a question for you about that, because we have a manager with us here, and as a team building, if you go back to the previous with the fishing, etc. So could you tell a little bit about how they get in touch for activities like a private fishing tour, etc.?
Yes, it's very easy. If you contact us and ask us for just anything you want to do, we will help you organize it. We can organize tours by boats, by helicopters, by bus, by rib boats, or just by foot, if you want to do that. So anything you really want, we will try to organize it for you.
That's good. For small groups and bigger groups.
Small groups and bigger groups,
yeah.
Yes. And of course, in most languages as well.
Yeah, and talking about most languages, that's really interesting, because as a guiding company, you have people employed from all over the world. Could you mention a little bit about that part as well?
Yes, we have more than 100 guides working for us, and they represent like 25 languages. And I would say that most of them come from different countries. Some of these are Norwegians, of course, that are very good with languages and talk several languages. But we have people from, from Italy, from Spain, from Germany, from Egypt working for us. So it's a really international group of people that are guides in our company, and they are so well educated and well trained, and I think they offer a good quality of guided tours.
That's good. So if you would like to make a team event or something, get in touch to make it special prepared for you.
Yeah,
that's good.
We can do, because there are local companies that would like to have not actually a team building, but they would like to arrange something nice for a couple of hours for a part of their company. And we often do things like that.
Tailor-made, that's good.
Yes. Something else we also offer is, this is meant for the people living in Stavanger. Every month, the last Thursday every month, we have what we call Månedens byvandring. And that's a tour around the city to learn the people, or to teach the people of Stavanger something about the history of their own city. And that's something we love to do, because most people living here, they don't actually know that much about their own city. So we pick a new theme every month, talk about like Lykkeland, that's one of our tours. this tells the story about Stavanger before we found oil and after we found oil. And I can tell you, it's a huge difference. Stavanger in the 60s and Stavanger now, you wouldn't recognize it. We have tours like on the big fires of Stavanger, on the plagues that have hit Stavanger. And of course, the most popular tour is the dark side of Stavanger, which is offered every October, also in English. And we normally have like between 500 and 1,000 people joining that tour. So it's really, really popular, but can be booked, of course, for groups, for friends, for families, and they often do that. So it's, if we can scare you, we will do it.
Sounds good.
So anything you want to ask us, anything you want us to arrange, just contact us and we will help you.
Very nice. And we believe in busy people are happy people. So from now on, since it is spring and summer, we would like to prepare outdoor activities. And it is very important to focus on seasonal activities. Britt mentioned Hardanger. Is fantastic in May. Of course, it is nice year round, but May is the time for blooming. And in June, in Ryfylke, in the neighborhood, we have all the strawberry farms. And then, of course, it is really nice to visit that area. In August, we have the apple harvesting. So it is also important when you plan activities to pick the best places at the right time. Maybe that's even more important than the weather, because we can dress for the weather. So on behalf of the Chamber, we also believe that it is important, if you are a newcomer, that you get used to kayaking, hiking. We will take you to the beaches on Jæren, see if you would like to do surfing. Because if you get used to it, of course, it is way easier to be the future ambassadors when you have visitors that you would like to bring along. So you will see on the website that we prepare events, hikes in Sandnes. In that area, we will go to Rennesøy, which has a very nice view. Maybe visit a greenhouse where they grow tomatoes. Because if you get used to those neighborhood hikes, easy for transportation, then it is also way easier to do Kjærdag and Flørli. And of course, as Britt mentioned, to visit a glacier and the longer hikes. Because if you would like to do an adventure, it is important that you are prepared for it, especially if you bring kids. It is important that they enjoy instead of being scared. So what we are going to do, we will send you the presentations, the websites, so many practicalities that we can think of. If you have other questions, you could contact Wenche, you could contact, use the websites, Fjord, Norway, and ask us, because we would like you to have a good time. So I will give the floor back to Britt and listen if you have any extra comments that you would like to recommend. Let me see if we are able to get her back.
Yes, I just have to get the mute off again. I think actually we have covered a lot of it, haven't we? I think I agree with you actually what you say about think about when you want to go out on adventures to bring a guide, because we have so many good guide companies in this region, and there's so many people that it's not just because you can't do it on your own. It's more about the feeling. I think bringing a guide is actually a better experience. First of all, they know actually the easiest ways to get around, especially for hikes and for the other activities. They can give you advice. They're good at storytelling. So you get much more out of your trip when you have all the good stories that adds to it. Normally they're good at outdoor cooking. They make you a fantastic lunch. So I think use the guide companies because they are really good and they are extremely well qualified. So that's at least one of my good advice of doing it. And then use the region as all year round. We also have very nice winter adventures. So it's possible to do a lot of fun things here in winter too. We focus a lot about the summer, but autumn and also winter is fantastic.
4 weekends of skiing.
Yes.
We are allowed to take 20 people skiing at a time, and everything is restricted right now, but hopefully we will open up soon. And for the time being, as you see, we have a 2-meter distance. Hopefully we are reducing to 1-meter distance pretty soon, and then it will be easier to prepare larger groups as well. So if you don't have any more questions, I think it will, Wenche, do you have any extra comments or recommendations that you would like to mention?
No, not really, but just go out and enjoy the very good region that we live in.
Fantastic. And as you all can hear, Britt and Wenche, they are here to sell Norway, no doubt about it. And we are proud, just the same way as we are traveling other places. Of course, we love to travel to other countries. And if we stay for a week or a month, we would like to explore as much as possible. And of course, that's our job, to make sure you would like to do the same in Norway. So please let us know if you have other ideas that we could share with you. My last recommendation is, if there is a little dark evening like today, use those hours for planning the summer or weekend trips. As soon as it is bright, jump into your sports shoes and use the Norwegian nature and all the attractions that we have been talking about. We wish you all a really nice spring and active summer, and we hope to see you all soon again. Have a nice evening.